Hey, this is Shoot First, Questions Later, an informative and mildly entertaining photography podcast.
With a raw Aussie flavour. My name is William, and this is Cameron Sandicock.
Well picked up there. I was laughing because you were making hand gestures.
So what happened was it took him about 15,000 tries to get that intro, and he nailed that one, so I was doing the old... the bellissimo AOK symbol, and then it cracked him up. Anyway, here we are, episode 11 of our photography podcast.
And thanks for waiting for this episode. I'm really excited to be back after a little bit and keen to get back into it personally. It's good fun.
It's hard to take you serious when you say that right now because you're just wearing shorts. Just the way you're sitting. I'll take a photo. Maybe we can put this on the...
Yeah, we'll put this on the Shoot First podcast Instagram.
I just took the photo and I feel like you were not going to approve of it. I'll get my slippers on there as well. There we go. Awesome.
Yeah, so go to the @Shoot First podcast on Instagram and you can see Will's shoes, which earlier he told me that he was going to put his moccasins on my bed.
That was the quote of the night.
Yeah, quote of the night.
But yeah, any images we speak about during this podcast will be on the Instagram page.
Correct. And Will, it is Shoot First, Questions Later. So let's tackle what we've taken photos of in the last week. Maybe any sort of international adventures you may or may not have been on.
Yeah, let's do that then. Why don't you kick it off?
Okay,
because I think you dusted off the camera.
Yeah. I took some photos.
I think episode 2 was the last time you used the camera, wasn't it?
Yeah, I took some photos the other day. Just went out with some friends. We walked around the
look at
Wollongong.
He's really selling it to us, isn't he? It's sounding very exciting.
Well, I like the photos, and it was like harsh daylight light, and
so you made a promise a few episodes ago about trying to shoot in harsh daylight.
Yeah, and so
you never fulfilled that promise, I don't think.
Yeah, I did put one photo up on the Shoot First Instagram.
Okay, all right.
But no, I'll put another one up because I don't know. I kind of like the midday shooting, sort of harsh light, like especially if you're around buildings and stuff in a more urban setting. Yeah, I don't know. I just really like that. And
on a side note, I'm just going to cut you off, but I saw a strange photo in Hawaii. It was on Reddit, but basically it was the sun was directly overhead and there was some parking poles. Yeah, and they were casting no shadow because the sun was overhead. And yeah, it was just a joke about how it looked like a badly rendered video game or something like that. I
saw that too.
Because when you said about the harsh midday light around buildings, I was thinking, shadows. And then I was like, hang on, no, the shadows are really minimal at that time.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Yeah, it's never... If it's right overhead, then... Which never really happens here.
Yeah, especially in winter, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. But yeah, so... just that like harsh light, you can get nice shadows, straight edges.
Give it a nice Instagram washout.
Yep.
1970s Kodachrome film look.
Just throw on that Visco edit.
So you just did a bit of street photography.
Yeah. Like my friend Matt was just in the photo. Like I just said, hey Matt, go over there. So it's not really like... Yeah. Candid street photo
journalist. Did you go out to take photos specifically, or we
had a coffee and we're like, oh, let's just walk around and take some photos. So yeah, it was good. It's fun to
take photos.
Yeah, just
and you were stuck in a rut. Yeah, admittedly.
Yeah,
we spoke the other day, and
I hit a rut every second Tuesday, roughly.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's the trend for the last few years, correct?
My life.
But anyway, so yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
it's like stretching your legs and
enjoyable. But what about yourself, Wilbur?
Returned from Canada. When was it? I don't know.
And that is the correct pronunciation.
That's how
it wasn't Canada. It was this
Canada.
Less well-known Canada.
Yeah, the smaller one.
Yeah,
it's a small island off the mainland. No, I had a photography workshop that I was running in the Rockies over there.
Nice.
Just for a week. And yeah, I've just returned. And man, what can you say about the Rockies? I was counting, it's my 5th time to Canada now.
How are your conditions?
Man, the best I've had there. Purely because they had a prolonged winter. They had a really brutal winter this year. And even though I was there in summer, right at the start of summer, which is generally when I've been over, the lakes were still either frozen or partially frozen, which I've never seen before. Usually by this time of year, they're completely melted.
Yeah, that's right. There were big chunks in that. What's that famous?
Lake Louise and Moraine Lake. And what was cool, like Lake Louise, we had it frozen, and then 2 days later, it was completely, there was no ice left, just like that. It just melts so quick. So it was amazing to see the double conditions. An emergence of seasons, Cam. That's what this was, a fusion of, I'm going to say seasons again.
Yeah, what more could you
Which is what it really was, to be honest. It was really cool.
That was like in one of my favourite memories of Iceland was going to a location a couple days apart, and we got it in no snow and then with snow.
And once that snow kicks in places like that, it's there for months.
Yeah,
it's the first onset of winter. So that was pretty cool.
It is pretty special getting those two seasons in one trip.
So I was able, even though I've been to these locations many times, and a lot of them are very, touristy. The main places. It was great to still get some photos there for myself, even as well as obviously the guys that I was taking around. So that was amazing, and even all the waterfalls were just cranking because of the fresh snow melt. There was a lot of flow on some familiar waterfalls that I'd seen in the past, but just the sheer volume of water, and had some amazing light rays come through some of the spray off one of the waterfalls, which often has these light rays. I've seen it a few times, but it's just intense what was happening. So
extra amount of spray.
Yeah, the extra spray just with the light, and that was a highlight for me actually. This waterfall, I've got one shot there that I really I battled for because it was so difficult to get the shot with the spray. You could get one frame, and then you couldn't shoot anymore because the picture was just ruined from mist, and even that one frame was still covered in water. So it was a mission to get the shot and also wait for the sunlight to come out between the clouds and get the beams as well. But it was so fun, such a challenge. But yeah, amazing conditions. We had a few bear sightings, and everyone on the trip had a fun time, and everyone got along. So can't complain at all.
Did you get the telephoto out for some animals or?
Yeah, I did actually. I actually probably got my first bear shot.
Cool.
I've seen so many bears over there, but never really got a photo, or half the time I don't try. But having the 100 to 400, being able to zoom right in on 400 mil, it's definitely not a good photo, but it's one that I may put on, say if I was advertising the workshop again in the future, it's enough to still use it as a bear photo.
I wouldn't mind seeing it.
No, it's not good.
Okay then.
But even what's nice over there is you get deer and elk in the field with mountain backdrops and trees, and that's just a standard scene every afternoon. You can't go wrong over there. It's just magic, man.
Crazy.
Absolute magic, to be honest.
It's a shame it's so far away.
I'm not running a workshop there next year. And the moment I kind of landed and got over there, it was instant regret. I'm like, oh man, this place is so beautiful. I should be coming back next year. But anyway, we'll have a break for a year. But
yeah,
it's a place
pretty
I
hard
recommend
to get
everyone. The Canadian Rockies. It's not hard. It's just a pain from Australia. 15-hour flight and then another smaller 2-3 hour flight. It's just how it is, but well worth it. Highly recommend it to anyone. Canadian Rockies, Banff, Jasper, all those areas. Just incredible. But that's enough of Banff. That's enough of Canada. It doesn't need any more attention.
Yeah.
But it was good.
Yeah.
And as far as shooting goes, the thing that comes to mind for me is just the waterfall, which hopefully I'll get up on my website in the next couple of days, a waterfall photo.
Yeah, and that probably won't be in the show notes of this episode because it's just not released.
Forgive me, guys. Yeah, forgive me.
You can imagine, just close your eyes, imagine a waterfall with light rays and mist.
Sunbeam, splash. There was actually, let me just go back to that photo briefly one more time.
Yeah. What
really drew me into the scene was I mentioned about the volume of water, so I was trying to capture that force of the water, the flow. Generally, this is quite a calm waterfall and it looks peaceful, but this time it was almost raging, it looked a little bit violent. So I noticed in the immediate foreground there was a few rocks, and as the water would come down the waterfall, it would rush and hit the rocks and splash up. So I was like, I want to get that splash in the foreground. It looks like a seascape, like waves crashing towards the camera. So that's what I was trying to do. So I was...
But you were in the mountains.
Yeah, so this is like in a canyon, basically. Yeah. You don't see mountains in the background, unfortunately.
What's a seascape / mountain photo called?
Mountainscape?
Seatan?
Seatan?
Seatan.
It was a bit of a
Nope.
Seatan scenario. So I was like...
Classic C-stand
It was a
scenario.
C-stand. It's just changing with every sentence. It's getting too late for this. But yeah, just trying to capture that unique scenario. That's why it was a battle for like 45 minutes, to be honest. I actually ended up... I try not to take photos myself too much when I'm running workshops, obviously. Yeah. But this got to the point I was like, all right, guys, my assistant was with me and I said, all right, you guys go ahead, I'll catch up. And I was determined.
Yeah.
Long story short. And I broke the old not using a tripod rule. Remember the rule about it? Yeah, so it was impossible to set up a tripod. So going in handheld and, yeah, man, fun.
Did you get the full scene in your depth of field?
Yeah. I was,
Sweet.
Somehow, some way.
Didn't have to stack or anything.
No, not possible anyway.
Because you've been known to do a handheld focus stack.
This trip was full of it. I was going ridiculous on handheld.
Awesome.
I don't think I used a tripod once. I'm actually not kidding.
What's a focus stack for maybe someone?
Okay.
Just so quickly summarise.
Focus stacking is just when you need to... Obviously, you want a large depth of field. You want focus from front to back in the landscape. But sometimes your immediate foreground may be way too close to the lens that... It doesn't matter what f-stop you're at or the aperture, you just can't achieve that. So it'll be a matter of focusing a minimum of 2 times 2 different focal points and then blending it together in Photoshop. So on this trip, with some of these frozen lakes, I'd get down handheld really close to the foreground, like literally 6 inches away and focus right there. And then I would do about 6 or 7 more focuses throughout. And going handheld just makes it way easier to get extra low, and even though the frames slightly move apart, Photoshop's really good at aligning them for you, and then you just have that huge depth of field, completely sharp, front to back. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
good times. All right,
yeah. Let's tackle a question.
Vibes rolling.
Yeah. So the question this week comes from our friend Marcus. And look, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but I think it's Marcus.
Because you're such a fanboy of Marcus.
Moller Bitsch.
You got to just say it fast and be confident.
Marcus Moller Bitsch. Anyway, if you want to see Marcus's work, you can find him on Instagram at MarcusMB. So MarcusMB. Anyway, what do you think? I might take the helm on a little story time here before we tackle the question.
All right, yeah.
So, Marcus, when I first got into photography, I was like really into the Flickr game.
Game.
Yeah, so like it was just like
before
the Flickr.
Instagram became the...
Yeah, it was like Instagram was definitely around and stuff, but Flickr had like this like cool little community of like photographers, and a lot of them were a lot of the people I followed were like these portrait photographers who did, more conceptual kind of self-portraits and stuff. Anyway, someone you probably have heard of is Lizzie Gadd.
Yeah, Elizabeth Gadd. She's a big,
so she was from
the Flickr generation.
Yeah. So I used to follow her and like Marcus, and anyway, Marcus was probably he was one of my favorite photographers, if not my favorite for a long time, and like I used to love his work. It inspired me a lot, and then I saw he was coming out to Australia, and just hit him up and said we can catch up, show him around the Blue Mountains. And so Will, our friend Matt, and I, was there anyone else apart from Marcus and Rasmus?
No, that was it.
Yeah, we caught up,
picked up the lads.
Yeah, went to the Blue Mountains, went around, took some photos, and it was just like really good time. We
solidified the friendship.
Yeah, it was like pretty surreal meeting like someone who inspired my work so much, and we just hung out for that day and a little bit of the next day and stuff, and had some really good times. He's an amazing photographer.
That's what I love about the online community
Yeah.
of photography, Instagram, Flickr, etc. is you can make these real life friends. You get to know people online first, and then if you have the opportunity when you're traveling or they're traveling to meet up, and it's crazy, man. Even you and me.
My
brings a tear to my eye.
In what world would you imagine meeting your favorite photographer who lived in Denmark? Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention he lived in Denmark.
A small detail.
Yeah. So yeah, in what world would you meet your favorite photographer who lives in Denmark, and anyway came out to Australia? So yeah, we've been friends since, and he listens to the podcast. It's really awesome, and yeah, so he sent us in a question.
And I'm going to correct you. You're not that much of a fan because his handle is, just for anyone who may look it up, hopefully
get it out. I did not get it wrong.
It's
really.
_MB.
Oh, I really thought
Marcus
there was
_MB. Worth checking out, guys. Something different.
Yeah.
This Marcus is very creative. He's a real talent, actually. He's a real standout.
He currently lives in
Paris, doesn't he?
Paris, yeah. Oh, it's France. I'm not 100% sure if it's Paris, but I'm pretty sure it's Paris. And
yeah, basically
so he
Paris,
does a lot of
just his props and everything. He creates a lot of the props that he uses in his photos, which I admire so much. Instead of digitally creating things, it's just mind-blowing.
He does photos that you would look at and think it's been photoshopped, and most people would just Photoshop it because that makes sort of sense to do that. But yeah, he'll just like create
make
props.
clouds with cotton balls, for example, or something like that.
Instead of so some people would use clouds as cotton balls or whatever, and they would just like take a photo and Photoshop it into their photo. But he will hang things from the wall and from the roof,
so painfully, and beautifully executed.
And he'll just he'll create all of his props and put it in the photo and not use. Photoshop, and I don't know, it's just really cool. But he sent us in this question, and he says, what is your take on digital/analog photography and medium format photography? Are we planning on shooting it? And if not, why not? So,
cool.
We'll break it up a little bit. So, Will, what's your take on digital/analog photography? So
being the youngster that I am, I've only ever shot digital, except when I was a child, having just film as everyone did back then. But I got into photography 2012, so obviously the digital era. However,
well underway.
The film has always intrigued me. I've mentioned, because I know you obviously shoot a little bit of film sometimes. Film's always intrigued me to experiment with, just for something different, but I've never got around to it, purely just for practicality reasons. I think what entices me about film is that it forces you to slow down and think about your shots. I feel, I've said this before, I find it more poetic almost. It's like knowing that someone didn't go out there and take 1,000 photos and hope they got one correct. With film, you don't have that luxury. So I've always thought, I'd almost just love to throw away digital and shoot film only, but that's just such a mammoth task.
Yeah.
Especially this day and age, the way everything works, and even the type of photos I take, and just the learning process essentially as well, knowing how to meter the light correctly and trust that what you're shooting is going to be the right result and everything like that. I can't see myself doing it in the near future, and if I did, it would maybe just be like more just like 35mm. I don't know what you'd describe, like point and shoot type thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
not medium format or anything like that. So maybe just like that for fun, which is what you do. I'm sure you mentioned that in a minute, but but deep down, I feel like it. I wish we could go back to those days and it would slow down and force people to. I just feel like photography was appreciated a lot more back then, because it was less accessible.
Yeah.
Where obviously now it's just so different, but it is what it is, and there is things that can be done in this digital age which just could not be done in the film time, especially with big ranges of light and night photography, things that I could do often. shooting the Northern Lights and whatnot. It's just not really achievable.
Yeah.
It would be hard to achieve everything that you can imagine, whereas now there's almost no limits, essentially. But yeah, a lot of respect for it. I follow guys that still shoot film, and there's that look to film that digital just can't replicate.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for film, and I think there's a magic in it. And film, movies as well. There's that look to film in general. It's almost sad to, see it slowly become extinct, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope that the people who are really passionate about it just stick to it and like keep it around and really preserve it, because in some ways I think like it could be making a sort of comeback. You see the price of film cameras starting to go back up, and the price of film, and so it indicates that...
I don't think it'll ever go away.
Yeah.
It'll never go away.
Yeah. I'm just sort of... I'm glad that there are people out there preserving it, because I know that it's not something I could do. I couldn't shoot it
always.
Exclusively and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely something that I've thought about. Probably a year or two ago, I gave serious thought into going full film because, I felt like I wanted to be one of those people, just like preserving it. And
it's like a romantic thought, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It was fully. That's a really good. That's a really good way of putting it for me, and it was.
It's almost like a musician, or no, sorry, not a musician, but just a fan of music, not listening to MP3s, only records, vinyl, vinyl or whatever, which people obviously do now. It's almost like a hipster thing to do it, but there is a difference, obviously.
Yeah, so the reason I decided not to go fully film was it came down to the practicality. And
you mentioned earlier when you went taking photos during the week, there was a guy, Matt, with you.
Yeah.
Matt Godkin. He shoots film.
Yeah, he had his
What's
film
his
camera.
reasons for doing this?
Yeah, he just loves...
shooting film, sorry.
Yeah, he really loves the colours that you get from film. So the film stocks that he picks, he loves those
the way
colours, how it reproduces.
Do you feel like you can achieve that digitally? But it's almost like the effort involved he doesn't like.
Yeah, well...
You could say that, maybe.
So yeah, I'll answer part one, which with Matt, he shoots these films because he doesn't really like spending heaps of time editing and finding the colours that he likes on his photos. So when he uses film, it's for like portraits and like his more, I don't know how else to say it, but arty photos, which for lack of a better word. And you can
just trust that, I know this is going to come out how I want it.
Yeah, so
basically.
A good film photographer has sort of like, they know the colours that they're getting from a certain film, they know what it works for, and they know when to use film as well, and when not to, essentially. And secondly, you asked if you can reproduce the colours of film digitally. And I think you can, like there are, presets, and even doing it yourself if you know what you're doing with color adjustments and whatnot, you can get pretty close. Like when I edit my photos, like for colors, I probably do, try to aim for a certain film look or whatever, and then I tweak it to what I like. And I get it to a point where sort of I'm happy with the look, but it's never gonna, you're never gonna completely match a film stock. Yeah.
It's kind of like a purist thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like if you know, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
And if you know, you know. But yeah, so I don't really shoot film at the moment because I feel like anytime I pick up the camera, I want to be picking up my Fuji, and I know I can, the style of shooting that I enjoy is sometimes incorporates those elements of stitching together photos and panoramas, and like sometimes you mentioned focus stacking. And
you're shooting a lot of frames sometimes.
Also, the financial cost, I'm not really like, I know that digital cameras are more expensive.
You're a homeless bum, essentially. But when people see the photo of you, So the second part of Marcus's question was about medium format.
Format, yeah. And this...
So digital medium format.
Yeah, or I think he kind of meant or analog, because Marcus has spoken to me before and he would love to shoot medium format analog as well. But either way, like... I was just going to say, I would
describe
love
medium format for someone who may not know about.
Yeah, true.
In under 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's the size of your camera's sensor or the camera's film, and it's bigger than a full frame sensor.
Yeah, so in digital photography, obviously we take photos on a sensor inside. That's where the pixels are.
Yeah,
and typically you have a crop sensor and then a full frame sensor, which is 35mm, and then medium format goes up larger again.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger sensor, which means more room for more pixels or
more light.
Larger pixels, et cetera, et cetera.
So, for example, like your entry-level Canon DSLR is cropped sensor, or APS-C it's called. Then a Canon 5D Mark whatever is a full frame, and then
Mark 2, 5D, 3, 4,
and then something like a Hasselblad is a medium format.
Yeah, and
camera.
Medium formats now are starting to get. Fuji released one a couple of months back. I think it's called the 50S. I'm probably wrong there, but anyway. And it's the world's...
I'll check, because I can't
check,
remember.
man, because I feel like I looked it
either.
up recently, but it's the world's first mirrorless medium format camera.
It looks pretty awesome
and
as well.
Price-wise, it's very attainable as well. It's under $10,000, which for medium format is just unheard of. I think...
Yeah, it's GFX 50S.
Okay, GFX, then 50S.
Yeah.
Yes, sweet. Prior to that, I think the cheapest medium format was, a Hasselblad for maybe 30,000 or something.
Yeah, very expensive, very, good photos.
So, Marcus, I mentioned, I got to admit, I was very intrigued with this Fuji medium format that's come out. Why would I be interested in medium format? Mainly the higher resolution and just essentially the quality of the pixels. It's 50 megapixel. Canon has a 50 megapixel, but it's on a full frame sensor. It's on a smaller sensor, so they've crammed so many pixels onto one little sensor, where this is spread out. Essentially, the pixels are bigger, so they perform better in low light.
And it collects more light. There's just more quality of light when there's more light hitting a bigger area, essentially.
It's a really nice camera. The only thing that held me back, obviously the price, but there's just not many lenses at the moment as well.
Yeah.
It's got to take a medium format's just a whole different ball game with lenses. The focal lengths are all different.
There's less lenses around, essentially. Yeah, and it's a new system, so they haven't, built up.
And
that sort
I
of
feel like competitors,
infrastructure.
probably Sony, will release a mirrorless medium format soon as well. What's weird is the fact that 99% of most work these days is viewed on a phone.
Yeah,
but we care about pixels,
so true.
like high resolution. But I do print, not overly often, but often enough. I print my photos, and I've sent some really large pieces around the world actually, and knowing that if I had that extra resolution, it can really go a long way. So I don't know, maybe in the future I'd be definitely interested for sure.
I think I'm more inclined to experiment or get a medium format film camera because I have one actually. It's it was gifted to me, and it takes that medium format film, which is 120 film, and I've got some of my favorite photos on this camera. And when I say camera, it's more of a black box with a hole at the front. Like it's called a Lubitel. It's very simple. It's very old, and but yeah. It's just such a nice sort of format when the photos come out. And I'm more inclined to go film medium format because of the price of digital one, obviously. And it would be like a second camera. It would be like more of a fun
after
thing
you've got
to
your shot
experiment.
digitally, just try to get a film shot.
Yeah, and in saying that as well, I would love to see you use like a large...
The large format film.
Nah, well, yeah.
Remember that time we encountered a guy doing that? So large format film is, if you
even
imagine...
bigger.
Yeah, huge,
But
like on a massive tripod. It's got like that... you have to put the hood over your head to view.
There's like a glass plate and stuff. Anyway,
and the image is upside down as well.
And anyway, I'd love to see you with a medium format camera, like a Pentax 6.7, just doing a landscape or a seascape or something, just for fun. I think it would be really cool. And I think we should, I think we should tee it up just for fun once.
Yeah, it would be cool to do.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, I suppose that's our...
If I ever have a studio
really.
like at home someday, an office, like a large office space, I'd like to experiment with that and actually print everything out or whatever. Yeah. For sure.
But yeah, I do, in saying all this, I do wish I was able to do more film photography, and I do am pretty jealous of the people that that
are able to do
are
it.
Committed, and and their work is different. Like when I see really good work done on film, it's just different and it's nice and I love it.
So our next segment, usually we go into Make 'em and Break 'em. However, we've got a new segment now, which is going to be Photo of the Week.
One might even call it POW. Thoughts?
There is potential to call this segment POW. Anyway, photo of the week. But we're not going to go there because we're cringing already at the thought of that. But yeah, basically any photo that has grabbed our attention during the week that we just want to share with you guys and, discuss the finer points of the photograph itself and or the photographer. And beautiful segue, speaking of film, our photo of the week is going to a man named Nirav Patel, based in California.
Oh, no.
Okay, sorry.
And,
he's from the States, though, right?
Yeah. And San Francisco,
California.
And I don't know, the photo we're going to talk about, I don't know if he photographed it using film, but the point is he does use film a lot.
His username, guys, you got to check this guy out. Cam put me onto Nirav a few months ago, and what's interesting for me, just very quickly, is what inspires me in the photography world is generally not what I photograph. I photograph landscapes, but I find myself more inspired by other genres. So Nirav's work, so his username, Nirav, Nirav photography, just at Nirav photography. That's his Instagram handle. And it's just stunning.
We'll add the photo we're talking about onto our show notes.
Yeah, so stunning portraiture, essentially low light portraiture, the occasional landscape thrown in. And the photo that we're kind of going to talk about here, this is just one of many, though, that are standouts. But what kind of caught my eye and Cam's eye as well is, how would you describe it?
Well, just to sort of describe it, maybe for anyone not looking, there's like a mostly silhouetted person standing in a beam of light, surrounded by smoke, and
it's me looking at the photo. It's, how do you describe it?
It's very mysterious. Like that's the kind of vibe I'm getting. Just like lots of mystery, lots of beautiful light, beautiful work with colours as well.
Yeah, what he does really well, and it's exemplified in this photo, is that he's so good at getting his subject's face in shadow, but still showing just enough detail.
A little bit, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
In the shadows,
can't comprehend it.
Yeah, there is enough there, but not too much, so that it keeps its mystery. And it still conveys like a mood to the viewer, so someone can still look at this and feel a mood or an emotion, despite not seeing an emotion on the subject's face.
It's kind of ambiguous. Yeah. You can make it up, whether it's
which is an amazing,
or whatever you want it to be. That's a pure talent.
Yeah, that in itself,
to leave it up to the viewer to decide for themselves what the photo is. And this is a side profile here of the subject, with light beaming through like smoke in the atmosphere.
Yeah,
and even the clothing on the subject, it's got like a bit of a vintage vibe to it, but once again, it's kind of not 100% transparent. It's his work in general, we might as well just continue on with his work here, but it makes you think. The way, like I said, there's a lot of darks. He really crunches the blacks and he's not afraid to silhouette things or just let the blacks completely be underexposed. But he knows how to have light exactly where it needs to be. There's a few portraits where he has a couple, and you have the main subject closer to the camera there in focus, but you have the subject in the background out of focus and getting lost in the background in the blacks, but then you'll still have just that right light hitting the subject's face and their eyes. Oh man, it's ridiculous. Despite the second subject being in the background,
still very intentionally placed and very intentional with the lighting and showing the right amount.
The type of photos he takes are the ones where you'd think, oh, I'm going to try that, and then you just get frustrated and want to quit photography. And what else you pointed out earlier, Cam, there's a few iPhone shots in here too, which just makes me sickened at how talented this man is. Pure talent here. And his work really highlights how important light is.
Oh, yeah.
I always talk about people, light is everything, and it's just so evident in his body of work.
Yeah, and using different kinds of light to create your scene, your mood, and how soft and harsh light does different things to what you're trying to show in your photograph.
Yeah, yes, definitely. He's got a consistent mood throughout. There's no doubt about that. But I guess to summarise overall, what I love about Nirav's work, and I don't know Nirav, I've never spoken to him, but
we could even be pronouncing his name wrong.
Yeah, it could be a silent N. It could be Nirav. We never know.
A silent N.
But yeah, what I like is the detail to light, and every single photo makes me feel something. And it's not too obvious as well. Like we were saying earlier, it's not like, hey, this photo is going to make you happy or sad. A lot of it is up to the viewer to decide, which that's a hard thing to do in photography. It's something that I guess a lot of people want to achieve as well. And everything just stands out. The second I look at his work, he's separated from a lot of other photographers in what he's doing here. It's beautiful. Kind of timeless. I'd call it timeless.
And despite a lot of his photos being portraits, there are a few really amazing landscapes in there as well that they're not your typical landscapes. Like they feel like he photographs his landscapes similar to how he photographs his portraits, like using the different variations of lighting, natural lighting to create that mood.
What creates depth in a photo or in a landscape is the transition of light, so movement from dark to light or vice versa. And all his landscapes have that beautiful transition happening of dark to light, and it just draws you straight through. And he even has some semi-abstract work as well, which once again, it's like you said, it's kind of like when he shoots his portraits, these abstract ones of waves and trees. It just evokes an emotional response.
Yep. And I think it's good not to rely on a human to tell the viewer how to feel. Like a human's facial expression is a very sort of easy way to tell the viewer how to feel about that photo or what feeling the photographer is trying to convey. But in his portraits, they are not always being shown by the facial expressions, and like they're being hidden, and it's the same with his landscapes. There's no faces in those landscapes, but you can still feel what he's intended or what he's felt when he took the photo. Anyway, we really like Nirav's work, and thought it was worth having a chat about.
Essentially just that. But this is a segment that we'll probably continue on because it's good to...
we like just mixing it up. And
we're rebellious. We're just going to mix it up whenever we feel like it. But no, definitely worth a mention. And like I said, for me, this is the work that inspires me. Not necessarily looking at landscapes and the same thing over and over, but this type of photography. And I'm sure Nirav will never listen to this podcast. But anyway, we love your work, mate.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully you guys can check that out. And yeah, just have a look at those points we were talking about, that use of the low light, the subtlety, and the transition of light from brights to darks and things like that.
Yeah.
Just good things to
good
maybe
lessons.
incorporate into your own photography as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there, and just want to say thanks again to Marcus_MB for sending in his question and for listening.
Thanks, Marcus. Yeah, thanks for listening, dude.
And if you want to send in your own question, you can email us at shootfirstpodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on Instagram or wherever. And yeah, we'll get to your question. And thanks for all the questions that have been sent in as well, and all the feedback. Will's back for a little while, so hopefully we'll be a bit more regular with our posts.
Will is back. And the next trip, Cam, will be you and I to New Zealand.
New Zealand. So that's really looking forward to that. And hopefully we'll have some stories when we're back from that as well.
Sweet as. Cool.
And yeah, thanks for listening, friends. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.